This is the last SEO competitor analysis video you'll ever need to watch. So start by scanning the QR code on screen to get the free SEO competitor research template I'll be using in this video. And let's begin with the broad level analysis. Here's how to do it. So step number one, gather organic traffic and backlink data. So here's the SEO competitor analysis template you're going to be using in this process. And our goal here is to gather as much data as humanly possible so we can see what the gap is between us and our top competitors. So let's get right into it. So step number one is we're actually going to go into SEMrush. And inside of SEMrush, I want you to go to the bulk analysis tool and you're going to enter at least 3 of your top competitors and then enter your domain in there as well. And then just click compare. So then once the analysis is complete, just go ahead and export the report and then go back to the sheet. And I want you to enter the traffic data from SEMrush. I want you to put the authority score, the referring domains, which might just be domains on the report, and then also the total backlinks. So put all of that data into the appropriate row for each of your competitors and also your own domain. And we're going to start to build upon this process. So then once you put all the data in, I want you to go back to the bulk analysis here and click on domains on one of your competitors. So you can just open this up in a new tab. And then what you're going to do is you're going to export all of their referring domains. And this will make sense here in a second. So then just go into ChatGPT and enter this simple prompt. And what this is going to do is I want you to upload the report you just downloaded and use this prompt. And then it's going to take all of those referring domains and their authority scores, and it's going to put them into these buckets. And so this is what the outcome will look like. You'll see that ChatGPT will put all the domains into the different authority buckets. And then just go back to the sheet and enter the appropriate amount of referring domains in each of these authority buckets. And the reason we want to do this is because it helps us see the strength of the backlinks that we have to get just to be able to narrow that gap. So in very high competition industries like we're looking at here, you see that there's a significant amount of links that the competitors have that are very high authority, which means the link investment here is going to be significant compared to, maybe a local industry where you don't see a lot of really high authority links like this. So this allows you to determine what your link building budget is going to be. So then the next step here is to go back to SEMrush and go to the keyword gap tool, enter your domain, and then enter your top 3 competitors in here, and then just click compare. So then what you want to do is scroll down and then click on untapped. So these are going to be the keywords that your competitors are ranking in the top 100, but you are not. So then I would just export that report and add it to the sheet. And now it's time for step number 2, crawl your competitor's website. All right, so now what you're going to do is you're actually going to crawl your competitors' websites. This is a very powerful technique that can give you tons of intel about how to build an effective website that's highly relevant. Because basically we're kind of building upon what our competitors have already done. So go ahead and just enter a competitor, and then I want you to go to the API section and make sure you connect the Ahrefs API. And then I want you to go up here and I want you to go to configuration. We're going to go to crawl config. And just to make this a more efficient crawl, we're going to get rid of all of this other stuff here. Okay, so just go ahead and check all of this off. You don't even have to have images. You can just get rid of those too. And we're going to check all of this off. And all I want to have is just kind of the basics, okay? Because we're trying to do just a very quick crawl. So then that's enough to run the crawl and then just start it. And once the crawl's done, you're going to go to HTML. So when on this internal tab, click HTML, and then you're going to export the report, just the HTML, and then we're going to bring that over to the sheet. So you can see here, I've got the full crawl in here, and you can see there's tabs down here where you can enter the crawl for at least 3 of your top competitors, okay? And so there's a couple things I want to do. First, I would highly recommend freezing the top row. It just makes your life a lot easier. So go up here and then freeze one row. And then also make sure you just add a filter, okay? So we're going to add a filter here. So then the next step that we're going to do is we're going to go and we're just going to look at indexable pages. Okay, so we're going to take non-indexable off and we're just going to look at indexable. So there are 4 data points we want to grab from these crawls for each of our competitors. Number 1 is we want to see how many indexed pages they have. So we're just going to highlight this row. And if you go down here to the right-hand side, bottom right-hand corner, you'll see 719. Just do -1 because that will include the top row. So this will be 718 index pages. So then just go back and put that into the broad analysis tab. Then we're going to scroll over and we're going to look at word count. Okay, so go over to word count and we're going to do the same thing. Just do this word count analysis again, and you'll see they've got about 1.4 million words on their index pages. Okay, so the reason we want to look at that isn't because word count is necessarily a ranking factor, but it's because it shows the quantity of content that's on their site, which means if they've done a decent job, they've probably built some significant levels of topic authority. So this is a very important metric, okay? And it is a gap that we're gonna have to narrow. All right, and then we're gonna go over here and we're gonna look at unique inlinks. This is how many internal links they have. Once again, a very strong variable in performance. We wanna also try to match that same level of coverage on our site. So you see they've got about 26,000, 27,000 unique inlinks, internal links, okay? And then finally, the last thing I wanna look at is we're gonna go over here, and this is the part where you gotta kind of use a little bit of filtering. Go to Ahrefs referring domains exact. We're going to go actually here and we're going to go to greater than, and we're going to do greater than 0. So we're only looking at pages that have at least one referring domain or one backlink. Okay. And so you can actually just do this over here to see the quantity. And once again, just do -1. So 425 pages on their website that have existing backlinks. So now you can see I've input all of this data in here. So we've got the indexable pages, we've got the word count for all of our competitors, we've got the internal links for all of our competitors, and we also have the pages with backlinks. Now this one you might be wondering, why does this matter? Well, because we want to see this ratio. So you can see if the formula didn't work for you on the template, you can just see it's just a simple division. But the reason why this is important is because you want to see how many pages actually have existing backlinks, because that's a really good signal of trust and authority. So you want this number to be as high as possible. And so on some really good websites, you'll sometimes find that they might have like 90%, meaning 90% of the pages on their website have backlinks. So if you think about if we're trying to send positive signals to Google, that's like the most powerful signal we can send is that, hey, look at the majority of our pages on our website actually have votes. Okay. If we're thinking about backlinks in terms of votes, this is what we're looking at. And so like this 23 here is an alarming ratio, right? So you want to be at least 50% and above, because that's going to show that you've got a significant amount of links going to internal pages, not just the homepage, right? So you want to have a really high ratio. So if it's below 50, you want to at least get to 50, but ideally keep pushing it up further and further. And now moving on to step number 3, investigate your competitors' brands. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and gather branded keyword volume. So what you can do is just go ahead and enter one of your top competitors. Let's use Rankability in this case, and in the keyword overview in SEMrush. And we want to collect how much branded search volume they have. Now, keep in mind, you don't need to get every single keyword variant, just get their main brand keyword. And that should be sufficient to give you kind of a rough guideline of how much brand awareness they have. Because once again, all of these are gaps that you want to try to narrow or you want to try to set as your target. So if there's a significant gap between you and the top competitors as far as branded search volume, that means they're probably doing more content marketing than you, maybe more advertising. So you're also probably going to have to do that as well. The next thing you want to do is go and look at every single one of their social media profiles, at least their main ones. So look at YouTube, X, LinkedIn, whatever other social media platform they're using. And I want you to get a cumulative audience size. Okay, so how many subscribers, followers, etc. do they have as a whole? And once again, this is just a really good sign of trust, because if you're building awareness on these other platforms, that's likely going to drive branded searches. It's also likely going to help get these potential prospects and potential customers to know, like, and trust you. So if your competitors are like killing it on YouTube or killing it somewhere else, you are probably going to lose because you need to also be there as well. So go and gather all of this data. So the next thing you want to do is go and gather how many reviews they have from third-party websites. So this is going to vary depending on the industry. So like if it's SaaS, you want to go to Capterra or G2. If it's local, you're going to want to go to, the Google Business Profile, which is really the most powerful place to look at review quantity. And if you're on like e-commerce or education-based businesses, you may want to look at Trustpilot. But basically just pick one and then gather how many reviews they have from that platform, and then go ahead and put that into the sheet. And then the last kind of brand awareness thing that we want to gather is with the large language model. So this is a new thing that we're starting to really get into, which is measuring our brand awareness on ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and Perplexity, which I'm calling right now the big three. This could change tomorrow. Okay. So this is all moving so fast. But in general, we can actually start to measure our awareness. And so you can see here, you can use a tool like Otterly, and I can see how many mentions of the brands are showing up for a specific keyword phrase. So in this case, this is going to be content optimization tools. And you'll see all of the ones that are popping up. So then I'm just going to go right back to the sheet and we're going to enter that data in there. So this is what it should look like once you've entered all the data in. We've got the branded searches, we've got the audience size, we've got the number of reviews, we've got the average score as well, which I do like to put in there, and then the brand mentions from large language models. So we've got a very beautiful picture of the gaps that we have between the top competitors and our brand. And this is what you want. You want to be able to see this at a high level and say, okay, we've got a lot of work to do. Okay. But in some cases, if you're already an established brand, maybe you don't have as much work to do. But when you're working with a new business that hasn't really done SEO in the past, you are up against some significant competition from competitors that have been doing this probably for a very long time. So these are real gaps, and this is real raw numbers that you do have to narrow. Like even the smallest of things like word count, you can see like for rankability, we've very minimal content has been created on this site, right? And that's by design, but just in general, you can see like even the next lowest competitor is, 187,000 words. So that is a lot of content that needs to be produced just to narrow the content gap. Okay. And we're not even talking about the quality of the content yet. We're just talking purely about the pure volume. And the same thing with links, the same thing with internal links. So you can start to see the reason why these brands are winning right now. Okay, you can see it because it's clear as day that just based on the numbers alone, there's no reason that we should be able to beat them. Okay, right now. Okay, but this is the beauty of this is that all of these metrics here, like total indexable pages, words, internal links, backlinks, are all the leading metrics that come first before the lagging metrics. And so the lagging metrics, of course, are the branded searches, the brand mentions in large language models, and of course the traffic, right? These are all the lagging metrics from all the work that's being done, right? Same with the audience size. Like the audience size just grows because content was created. Now you could go to another level and be like, okay, how many YouTube videos do they have? How often do they post on social? Like you could go to that level. But in general, like if you see they've got a big audience size, it's pretty clear that you need to be creating content probably on multiple platforms. So now that you know what you're up against on the broad level, it's time to drill down to the page level. Here's how to do it. All right, so now you're gonna go to the Pages tab down here, and you're gonna see all of these different templates. So each of these is designed for one singular keyword. So you're just gonna enter one very important commercial-based keyword here, and then we're gonna go through this process. So the first step to measuring relevance is to go to rankability and go to the content optimizer. And you could do this in a batch, or you could do it one at a time. So if you wanna do it with just a single, you would just go ahead and enter the keyword and click import URL content and then enter the URL in here. So you can see this is what I did with this one. But if you want to do multiple at the same time, just click the multiple tab. And then all you have to do is just put the keyword here and then enter the URL like this, whatever the URL is, and then /keyword. So just make sure that the keyword here that you enter matches the URL and vice versa. So this would be, keyword 2, and this would be, /keyword 2, but make sure you have the full URL in there, okay? And so this will run multiple optimizers at the same time, and this is gonna help us measure relevance. Okay, so then open the report and go to the competitors tab, and you're gonna go ahead and look and see what their overall rankability score is for a specific keyword like this. And so you'll go back into the template, go ahead and enter the rankability score for the top competitors for that keyword. So in this one, this is SEO content optimization tool. We enter the rankability score and then enter your rankability score. If you're not showing up in the top 30, then you can enter the URL in here and then hit compare, and it will show you what your current rankability score is specifically for that one keyword. Okay, so you're gonna enter the rankability score and then go ahead and enter the word count as well right here. So once again, this just shows us a clear gap on the page level that, A, our page is not as relevant as the top competitors, and B, our page is not as thorough and likely as deep as the top competitors. So we can already see that there's a gap just looking purely from quantitative analysis, not even looking at the quality of these pages. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to measure on-page SEO. So like the very basics of on-page SEO. So what you're doing here with rankability, this is what I would consider more advanced content optimization, but there is some kind of basic level on-page SEO that you do have to do. So you go to the site, just download the detailed Chrome extension, just click on this. And we want to see that the keyword is in all the core locations. So we want it to be in the URL. Now, there's an exception to this rule if it's on the homepage, because obviously you're not going to get that benefit. So this, once again, shows the advantage of using an exact match domain. But in this case, this technically would not get the full score just because the core keyword is not in the URL. But we want to look in the URL, the title, the meta description, the H1 tag, the visible heading on the page, as you can see here, and then the first sentence. Okay. So if it hits all of those marks, you're going to go back to the template and you're going to mark it as a 5. So you'll see now we've got this column here for on-page SEO. If it has every single part in it, then it's going to get a 5. So these are actually going to be 4s because they don't have it in the URL and they don't have an exact match domain. So Zapier, though, has everything perfect. They've got the keyword in the URL. They've got it in the title, the meta description, the H1, and the first sentence. So that's 5 out of 5 on that front. So once again, a clear gap that we can go and narrow for our page. The next thing I recommend doing is running all of your competitors through originality.ai. And this isn't because AI content can't rank. It's more just to see if who you're up against, what they're currently using. So if all of your competitors are using human written content, more than likely you're going to have to use human written content. You're not going to be able to beat them in that regard. And if everyone else is using AI content, then of course you could use AI content as well because it's already a proven model. So what we're doing here is we're just trying to see what that distribution is. And so in this case, I'll show you like the large majority of competitors are using human written content. So, and we are, funny enough, this was measured as human written, but I would call it more of a hybrid. It was using some AI, but it's still coming back as human written. So, but the point is we want to align with the competitors for whatever keyword we're going after. So now open up each of your competitors' URLs that are currently ranking, and I want you to do a qualitative analysis. So everything that we've done so far is very quantitative analysis based, very data driven. But now I want you to actually just like look at the page and subjectively analyze it. And so for me, just a real quick analysis, what I'm looking at is like quality of copywriting, design, user experience, and readability. Okay. So when I look at this site here, ClearScope, they're doing a terrific job across all those fronts. They have very clean copywriting. They've got beautiful design. They've got great social proof. It's very clean and minimalistic, which is definitely my preference. And they've got, once again, it's a really, really good page overall. So this would get a solid 5 out of 5. You can quickly see that and you can see quality right away. But if you're in doubt, then what you can do is you can actually just use ChatGPT to do this for you. So what I would do is I would just go ahead and do like this, like I'm going to print it. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to save it as a PDF. And we'll go ahead and do portrait like this. Let's try to get the best design. And you can see we can go ahead and just save this as a PDF and then we can upload this to ChatGPT. And then we'll just use a very simple prompt like this. You can see this here, this very simple prompt. So analyze this page's SEO content quality based on the questions below. Okay, so these are all questions that you can run through. And by the way, I pulled these directly from Google's quality rater guidelines. So you can add a bunch of others in here as well. To ultimately see if the page is compliant with what Google's algorithms are hoping to see. Now, does Google actually use all these? Hard to say, but in general, these are just general good ideas to build a good page. So then just go back to the sheet and enter a quality score for all of the top competitors. Okay, so then go back to the Screaming Frog crawl. And what we want to do is look at how many internal links the page that's ranking has. Okay, so for the homepage here, for them, we're going to go over here and we're going to go to unique in links and we're going to see how many unique in links the homepage has. And it's 326. Okay, this makes sense because usually the homepage is prioritized in navigation. So this is what you would expect, but you still want to go and enter that number into the sheet because it's going to tell us, okay, we know how many internal links we're likely going to need to probably perform well for this. All right, so now we're going to measure the overall topic authority around that one keyword. So in this case, we're just going to look at Zapier and just use the site colon search and put the keyword pretty broadly. So like in this case, the primary keyword is SEO content optimization tools, which is pretty long tail, but I've kind of condensed it down into the core topic because I want to see how many pages they have that are relevant to that core topic. Okay, and so we can see they've talked about roughly in this, in this category quite a bit. Okay, quite a bit. So basically what you want to do is you want to get the raw number of pages that they've built around this topic. And then you're going to go back here and you're going to enter a score based on that. So a very simple criteria you can use is like if they have 1 or less, then they would get a score of 1. Okay. And then you could go like for a score of 2, it'd be 2 to 5. Then you would do, 6 to 10 for a 3, and then 11 to 20 for a 4. And then for to score a 5, they would need 21 additional assets that support that main keyword. So they have 21 plus assets, then they've built significant support around this core topic. And that's another gap that you're going to have to narrow. All right. So finally, the last thing to do here is go to SEMrush's keyword overview. You can also find this data in your sheet more than likely, but we'll go ahead and scroll down into the core keyword. And there's 2 things we want to look at. Number 1 is we want to look at the overall domain strength of the competitors that we're up against. Okay. So we have Zapier, Surfer, and ClearScope. So we've got their domain authority score, which is the overall strength of their website. Okay. Then we want to go over here to the URL and look at how many referring domains they have on their pages. Okay. Very, very important, because we need to probably narrow these gaps as well. So let's go back to the sheet. And once again, just enter the referring domains that we'll need on the page level, and then also the authority score. So this is important because we're looking at 2 different things. We're looking at, okay, how many links do we need going to this specific page? And then also, how big is that authority gap on the site as a whole? And so, for example, you could narrow this referring domain gap on the page level, but if you haven't narrowed the overall strength of the site, you're probably not going to be able to beat them. You now have all the data you need to take intelligent action against your competitors. But the question is, what actions can you take that'll have the biggest return with the least amount of effort? Well, one of my go-to techniques that has a 99% success rate is to upgrade and optimize existing SEO content. So watch the next video to see my complete step-by-step SEO content creation process.